Nom, 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 nom. Oh, yummy. Oh, yeah. I'm ready and raring to go. Thunderbirds and go. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. To an everyday life of an Aspie. If you're new to my channel, I'm Aspie. I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories with autism, as well as basically everyday other health issues that you may have heard about that has come onto my channel. I also do some other bits and pieces like fun and games that you may have seen with the challenges and just bits and pieces along the way that I thought that might be of value and use to you, just to entertain you as well as hopefully enlighten you when you're down and out, regardless why you landed on my channel today. I hope that you find some answers or whatever it may be that you're seeking for comfort, security, or what have you. I'm hoping to be your girl. So you may be wondering what the hell I was doing just before. Well, obviously this one's back to the autism end, because at this point of time I'm still awaiting on some responses from some people on that conference. So this one's all about autism and processed foods. So it has been brought to my attention, obviously, when I have been doing this, basically, that it has been screaming out with some form of another, of a, like, what you call it, a chemical agent, basically, that is the high fructose corn syrup, which basically screams out for mercy that it causes autism. But then again, there are other key factors though we want to bear in mind though when it comes down to the processed foods or the diet we take or what have you. You see, basically research has been backed up from what you may have experienced firsthand, because as we know, food overlaps with many aspects of life that challenge the coping skills of individuals with autism spectrum disorders. This can include the extreme sensitivity to change in sensory stimuli around the environment, as well as the intense focus on the details at hand that they need to do. When we have heard about the link between maternal obesity and autism, we thought it did make sense, however, which is a sad discovery for it all. After all, obesity during pregnancy is linked to other risk factors for infants, so it's not surprising here that our typical diet of highly processed foods that we love and enjoy is also linked with autism. The problem here isn't so much what processed foods put into our bodies. It's what keeps our bodies from eliminating the waste products. Here's say, as I said before, about the high fructose corn syrup, which in turn can cause mineral deficiencies that prevent our bodies from getting rid of the toxic chemicals out of our systems. Processed foods leading to autism is a very complex chain of events, as our researcher David Wollonga has explained. If you've got enough calcium in your diet, it's going to protect you from absorbing lead, and concurrently, if you're calcium deficient, you're going to absorb more lead in your gut and therefore have more lead in your bloodstream. Toxins in the environment, however, may also play a key role here. The researchers recommend a diet high in antioxidants and necessary minerals for pregnant women or those who are expecting. It's one thing to think about the harm processed foods do to our own bodies and weigh whether or not we want to take that risk of eating these processed foods, right? But when our eating habits can affect our unborn children, then we question to ourselves, well, what then? I guess it shouldn't be too shocking that high fructose corn syrup and other processed foods are bad for us and for our babies. But learning exactly why they're harmful is surprising. Now we know if you're expecting or not. It would be sad to say that we should cancel out all the good of those helpful prenatal vitamin supplements with junk food snacks, however. Even though they say that sometimes a little bit of junk food can be fine with, these little managements, but it's just managing what we get in and what we get out versus, quantity over quality. A gluten and season-free diet is well known and it has a solid scientific basis behind it. However, there is much more to your child's nutrition than just cutting out the gluten and season. Many people believe in nature, and many people, as I shared before, and some of these dietary requirements, what they've done for their child with autism. So I'll link that in the description below of what I've shared with the playlist that I've shared so far. Nature made us, and at the same time it provided us with every food we need to stay healthy, active and full of energy. However, we have to eat these foods in the form that nature has made for us. or made them. It's when we start tampering with the natural foods, we start getting into trouble. Any processing that we are subjected to for the foods that we eat changes its chemical and biological structure, etc., etc. Our bodies aren't designed to have these changed foods. The more food is processed, however, the more nutrient depleted and chemically altered it becomes. Apart from losing its nutritional value, processed food loses most of its other properties, such as taste, flavour, colour. So to compensate for that, various chemicals are added: flavour enhancers, colours, all those additives and preservatives, all those chemicals that have conclusively been shown to contribute to learning disabilities, psychiatric disorders and other health problems. If we look at the supermarket shelves, we'll see the bulk of processed foods are based on carbohydrates. All those morning cereals, crisp biscuits, breads, pastas, chocolates, sweets, jams, you name it, is all in there. Basically, as we know, many of us autistics, especially, I'll include myself, I've learned that basically with high processed foods sort of thing, I tend to enjoy it because of the taste, and obviously, you know, I know for facts, and I've known that for fact, that we do tend to lose out on the important nutrients that we so need for ourselves, especially for us autistics and some other disabilities, or I shouldn't say this, disabilities, some form of conditions, he say ADHD, ADD, that, you know, have hyperactive mind set cells and high full of energy, burst of energy, and then sometimes with the help of a little sugar rush here and there with the processed foods or just some sweets, it should be fine. But then again, I'm going to examine one by one basically of this group. As we know, all carbohydrates in foods gets digested and absorbed as a form of glucose. Nature provided us with plenty of carbohydrates in the form of fruit, vegetables and cereals. We then eat them in the natural tempered form. The carbohydrate part of them is absorbed slowly, producing a gradual increase in the blood glucose, which our bodies were designed to handle. Processed carbohydrates are absorbed very quickly, however, producing a very rapid increase in the blood glucose, hence why we get so full of energy. Now, the blood glucose is one of those factors which our bodies go to great lengths to keep with certain limits, because both high and low values are harmful, however. A rapid increase in blood glucose, called hypoglycemia, puts the pancreas into a shock state to pump out lots of insulin very quickly to deal with these excessive glucose levels. As a result, about an hour later, the person has got a very low level of blood glucose called hypoglycemia. Did any of you notice that after eating a morning cereal this morning for your breakfast, you feel hungry again in an hour, he say? This is hypoglycemia. What do people usually have at that time in the morning to satisfy their hunger? A biscuit, a chocolate bar, a coffee or something like that? And the whole cycle of hypoglycemia begins again. This up and down blood glucose roller coaster ride that we have is extremely harmful for anybody, let alone for the autistic children. It has been proven, however, that a lot of hyperactivity, aggression and other behavioural abnormalities in school children are a direct result of this glucose roller coaster ride. The hyperglycemic phase produces a feeling of a high with hyperactive tendencies and self-stimulation in our children, whilst the hyperglycemic phase makes them feel unwell, often with a headache, bad moods, tantrums and general fatigue with excessive sweating. Most foods, however, has been assigned which is called a glycemic index, which a glycemic index is an indicator of how quickly they can increase the blood glucose after being ingested. Processed carbohydrates, including your sugars, have some of the highest glycemic index ever before, as well as maybe your white rice you eat, the cooked potatoes and cooked carrots and peas. It's best to give an autistic child carbohydrates with low glycemic indexes, like your raw fruit and vegetables and some whole cereals that you cook yourself. Fructose has a low glycemic index. A natural form of fructose is unpressed honey. A lot of honeys, however, sold in shops have been heat treated, which destroys the valuable enzymes and other nutrients and gives honey a higher glycemic index. A natural form of fructose is like I said, obviously this can be used really in moderation for this form of honey. Another important point to note though about processed carbohydrates is the detrimental effect on the gut flora or our intestinal balance. Processed carbohydrates feed pathogenic bacteria and fungi in the gut, promoting their growth and proliferation. Apart from that, they make a wonderful glue-like environment in the gut for various worms and parasites to take hold and develop. Not the worms that you see like floating around outside, eating away in the dirt and stuff. These are the specialized worms that are specialized for us to keep our gut healthy and at bay. All these micro creatures produce toxic substances going into the bloodstream and literally poisons the child. The more processed carbohydrates you give to your autistic child, however, the more toxic they'll become and the more autistic-like symptoms you will likely to see. Recent scientific evidence suggests that autism may be an autoimmune disorder, which is an imbalance between two major arms of the immune system. The THI and the Th2 immunity has been found in autistic children to have overreactive Th2 and the suppressed THI, hence why we're so energetic and full of beans. The same picture is seen in many chronic diseases, however: viral, bacterial, parasitic, cancer, allergies, asthma, and other autoimmune conditions that I've clearly addressed most likely in these dietary things. Processed foods, however, particularly processed carbohydrates and sugar, directly weakens the functioning of the macrophages, the natural killer cells and other white blood cells, and undermine systemic resistance to all infections. For example, an immune compromised person like the autistic child who has soft drinks and french fries or crisps on the daily will worsen their condition by these food choices. An appropriate nutritional management is an essential part of dealing with an immune imbalance. Powerful probiotic like primal defense, dealing with an immune HI and Th2 parts of immunity. Now, just briefly, hopefully, let's look at the various form of those processed carbohydrates. What about start from the morning cereals? They're supposed to be healthy, right? Unfortunately, the truth is, fact of the matter, it's quite the opposite here. Morning cereals are highly processed carbohydrates full of sugar, salt, and other substances. They have a glycemic index and are detrimental to the gut flora balance. The fiber in them is full of phytates, which are substances that bind essential minerals and taken out of the system and contribute to mineral deficiencies. There is nothing healthy in them for the autistic child. Again, crisps and chips and popcorn are also a backbone of children's diet nowadays. These are highly processed carbohydrates with high glycemic index, but that's not all about them though, however. They are saturated with vegetable oil, which has been heated to a very high temperature. Any oil that's been heated has substances called trans fatty acids. These are unsaturated fatty acids with altered chemical structure. What they do in the body is to replace the vital omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in their cellular structure, making cells in a way disabled. Consuming trans fatty acids will increase the activity of Th2 and weaken the Th1 immunity. As you remember, the Th1 immunity is already suppressed in the autistic children and Th2 is overactive. The gluten-free diet is widely recommended and a lot of families with autistic children has found it very helpful, as I've mentioned before. But let us have a look at wheat as a whole, with gluten or without it. Virtually nobody buys wheat as a grain and cooks it at home. We buy foods made of wheat flour. The flour arrives to bakeries in prepackaged mixes for different kinds of breads, biscuits and pastries. These mixtures are already processed with the best nutrients lost. Then they are enriched with preservatives, pesticides to keep the insects away, chemical substances to prevent it from absorbing moisture, colour and flavour, improvers, softness, just to mention a few to you guys. Then the bakery makes these breads, pastries, cakes, biscuits, etc. out of these chemical cocktails or concoctions for us all to eat. The producer is quite happy to take the gluten out of these mixtures and make gluten-free products. So you will get all the processed carbohydrate with all the chemical additives in it, but this time without the gluten. Once swallowed, a piece of white bread turns into a glue-like mass which feeds the parasites and pathogenic bacteria and fungi in the gut, contributing to the general toxic overload that your child already has. I strongly believe that autistic children shouldn't have wheat in any shape or form, but however, every autistic or every child is different, So I clearly suggest here to do the elimination diet to see what causes them to be the way they are hyperactive otherwise, as I clearly suggested in one of my videos, which I'll link again to this description below. Being a staple in the Western world, however, wheat is also a #1 cause for food allergies and intolerances. Sugar and anything made with it once was called a white death. It deserves this title. The consumption of sugar around the world has grown to enormous proportions in the last century, however. It's been estimated that an average Western person consumes about 160 to 200 pounds of this unnatural substance per year. Sugar is everywhere, and it's hard to find any processed food without it, apart from causing the blood glucose roller coaster ride that I have just shared, and having a detrimental effect on the blood flora. It has then been shown to have a direct damaging effect on the immune system, which is already compromised in the children. On top of all that, to deal with the sugar onslaught, the body has to use available minerals, vitamins and enzymes at an alarming rate, finishing up being depleted of these vital substances. An autistic child should not have sugar in any form, regardless of what they may be, as I said before. It goes without saying that they should be out of your child's diet with or without gluten. For birthdays and other rare occasions, homemade cakes with honey instead of sugar and ground nuts or other ground nuts can be made. Soft drinks are a major source of sugar in children's diet, not to mention all the chemical additives on top of that. Fruit juices are full of processed fruit, sugars and malts. Unless freshly pressed, they should not be in your child's diet either. Aspartame or sugar replacement in many drinks was found to be carcinogenic and should be avoided at all costs. It turns out into menthol and its derivatives in the body. Maternal is a well-known poison. Bottled mineral or filtered water with a slice of fresh lemon is best for your children. Drinking chlorinated water from the tap will further damage your child's gut flora, since the chlorine is there to kill the bacteria in the first place. To summarize, an autistic child shouldn't have any processed foods in their diet. All foods should be as close to the way nature made them as possible. Fresh is best, as they say. Fresh fish, fruit, vegetables, fresh meats, not preserved, eggs, nuts, seeds, garlic, and the like. All should be prepared at home from fresh supplies. I have deliberately used the word fresh a certain amount of times here just to include here because I can't choose enough. Fresh is best. Fruit and vegetables should be eaten raw as much as possible in the forms of salads, sticks, slices, etc. Fresh fruit and vegetables aren't just a good source of various vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other nutrients in our bodies that needs it, but they're an excellent source of vital enzymes that autistic children are lacking. Those enzymes are essential in the detoxification of the body. Eating raw vegetables with meals will assist in the digestion of meats and cereals. Cooked vegetables and fruit loses a lot of their nutritional value. Enzymes and vitamins are destroyed. Carbohydrates changes their structure. Carrots, cucumbers, peppers, cauliflowers, broccoli, celery are delicious forms in sticks or rosettes with a dip. Mayonnaise, avocado mashed with plenty of cold pressed virgin olive oil and a dash of lemon juice with choice of fish and onions or garlic and tomato. Avocado is a wonderfully nutritious fruit and should be a regular part of a child's diet. Half an avocado with prawns and mayonnaise when you meat or fish can make a quick nutritious meal. For instance, many children and adults on the spectrum are extremely sensitive to not just flavour though, but also the colour, smell and texture of foods. Many also have strong preferences for a narrow selection of foods. Some even feel compelled to have certain foods in the same place on the plate or to use the same plate at each meal. As I said, that most of us are, when autistic, has same foods and same routines and all that. Of course, we all have food preferences once in a while, and many of us find food comforting. However, these natural tendencies can become exaggerated for a person with ASD. In other words, your son or daughter focuses on food like their other special interests at hand may be particularly intense. On top of all this, many individuals with autism have difficulty describing what they like or dislike about their certain foods. So it can be difficult to determine what's about a certain food that's so important or upsetting to your son or daughter that will then increase the risk of your meltdowns. Research has shown or told us that many individuals with autism tend to have strong preferences for carbohydrates and processed foods while rejecting, again, fruit and veggies. This too may reflect an aversion to strong tastes and textures. Unfortunately, it can lead to nutritional deficiencies as clearly addressed and excessive weight gain, especially if exercise is limited. The need for sameness is quite common for people with autism, which may also make it difficult to introduce new foods to your son or daughter's diet. Just as a substitute teacher can provoke extremely upsetting for your child with autism, so can unexpected foods on their plates. Put it all together and meals can become emotionally loaded for everyone in the families. So let me offer some friendly tips from a friendly Aspie, and hopefully that we can go a long way. So along the way, coping strategies for this is in general. It's important to avoid making a food a chronic source of conflict. When you sense a food-related meltdown that is slowly approaching, try to diffuse the situation as you would with any other potential meltdown that has caused it. You also try to intrude coping strategies. For example, a deep breath and a break from the conversation. You might make a visual schedule to establish a plan for a mealtime, or negotiate a reward that could be earned for completing a task, such as trying a new food for this. When introducing a new food, however, try to remember that a touch of consistency can help things for the child to keep calm. So include 1 or 2 old favourites in every meal, along with new introductions. Also, when introducing new foods, maybe don't tell your kid off when it comes down to maybe when they're playing with their food, when it's touching. It's just a new thing just to get them to have a feel. When introducing a new food, remember that touch of consistency can help things calm, like I said. Next is go softly in introducing new foods. You can try the age-old try one bite and start with asking your son or daughter to just maybe try or smell the food for the first time when it's offered to them. You can also build on a preferred food to gently expand a diet to include the similar choices. So if your son or daughter insists on, say, Honey Nut Cheerios, try offering them a similar cereal such as multigrain Cheerios. Will help to have your child a buy-in for this option. So try making new choices together at the supermarket when you're both calm and away from the dining room table. Finally, last but not least, try to encourage flexibility around trying new foods. Away from mealtime, discuss how their favourite foods can be put into their plan A choice for meal times, but that it may not always be available. So they'll need a plan B that they'll agree will be acceptable between you. These types of strategies can be found obviously on the Unstuck and On Target and Unfunction curriculum to improve flexibility for children with autism, which I'm hoping maybe to include this in the form of things. So this ends about the autism and process first. Give me a like for thumbs up for support, comment below. Feel free to follow me on my social media sites. Feel free, if you haven't done so, if you wish to follow me on my journey and want to be part of my family, is to subscribe on the bottom right hand corner. While you're down there, basically feel free to click the notification bell so you can keep up to date with what I've been up to. So in all further ado, guys, don't forget to share these videos around. Do what you love what you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out, and I'll see you again soon.